The email arrived at 9:45 on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, meeting request. Sender, HR department. Location, conference room B. Time, 10 a.m. I stared at my screen for a full minute. Last week, I had submitted a burnout survey. The fifth one in 2 years. Every previous survey had disappeared into some digital void where honest feedback went to die. Maybe this time someone actually read it. Maybe they wanted to talk solutions. I grabbed my notebook and walked down the hallway toward conference room B. The building felt quieter than usual. When I reached the door, I noticed 2 security guards standing outside. Not inside. Outside. My stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. I pushed the door open anyway. Bridget Calloway sat at the head of the table. Head of HR for 6 years. The woman who once told me I was essential to the company's future. She had a manila folder in front of her and an expression that looked rehearsed. No smile. No warmth. Just corporate efficiency wrapped in a navy blazer. She gestured to the chair across from her. I sat down slowly. My hands felt cold. She opened the folder without meeting my eyes. Then she said the words that would change everything. Jenna, this is difficult, but we're letting you go. Budget cuts. Effective immediately. The room tilted slightly. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. Budget cuts. I had led 3 departments. My projects generated 52% of the company's revenue last year. I had the numbers memorized because I had presented them during my last review. I opened my mouth to ask why, to ask how, to ask anything. But Bridget was already sliding a paper across the table. Severance terms. 2 weeks pay. Standard corporate goodbye. She stood up. The meeting was over. I hadn't even spoken. The security guards stepped inside. One of them asked for my badge. I unclipped it from my belt and handed it over. The other guard said I couldn't return to my desk. They would pack my things and mail them. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just an escort to the exit. I walked through the office in complete silence. Co-workers stared. Some looked away quickly. Others kept their eyes locked on me like I was a warning. A few held up their phones. Recording. I kept my head up and my face blank. But inside, something was breaking. Or maybe it was waking up. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could turn the key. My phone buzzed. Text messages. Emails. People asking what happened. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened a private folder on my phone labeled Projects. Inside was a single document. An LLC registration confirmation. Filed 45 days ago. I had done it late one night after another 60-hour week when my manager forgot to thank me for saving a failing client account. I told myself it was just a backup plan. A safety net. Something small and legal and mine. I never thought I would actually need it. But now, sitting in that parking lot with my career in a cardboard box I hadn't even packed myself, that tiny LLC felt like the only solid thing I had left. The signs had been there for months. Good people leaving. Talented analysts quitting without explanation. Engineers taking jobs at smaller companies for less pay just to escape. I had asked Bridget about it once during a team meeting. She said it was natural turnover. But it wasn't natural. It was systematic. The company was bleeding its best workers while executives bought new cars and talked about record profits. I started keeping a list. Not to be petty. Just to understand. 12 people left in 8 months. Every single one of them had been overworked, underpaid, ignored. And every single one of them had tried to speak up before they left. Nobody listened. I had stayed because I believed things would get better. Because I thought loyalty mattered. I was wrong. The next morning, I checked the company website. Morbid curiosity. I wanted to see if they had posted my position yet. They had. But they didn't post it externally. They filled it internally. The new operations director was Miles Thornton. I didn't recognize the name at first. Then I saw his LinkedIn profile. Fresh MBA. 2 years of experience. And one very important detail. His uncle was Cameron Holt, our CEO. Budget cuts. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. They didn't cut the budget. They cut me. Then they handed my job to someone who shared a last name with power. I closed my laptop before I said something I would regret. Then I opened it again and logged into my LLC email account. 3 messages were waiting. All from former clients. All asking if I was available for consulting work. I could have spent the day angry. I could have called a lawyer. I could have posted something bitter on LinkedIn about corporate betrayal and nepotism, but anger is exhausting, and I was already too tired. So instead, I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and read those 3 emails carefully. The first was from a logistics company I had helped 2 years ago. They needed a new data tracking system. The second was from a marketing firm asking about workflow optimization. The third was from a tech startup that wanted someone to build their client management process from scratch. All 3 offered to pay. Not huge amounts, but enough. Enough to make me realize something important. My value didn't disappear when Redok fired me. It just became portable. I replied to all 3 emails. Then I scheduled calls. Then I got to work. The first consulting call lasted an hour. By the end, the client had hired me for a 3-week project. The second call turned into a monthly retainer. The third became a referral to 2 other companies. Within 5 days, I had more work than I could handle alone. My LLC wasn't a backup plan anymore. It was becoming a real business. I rented a small desk in a shared office space downtown. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet room with good Wi-Fi and coffee that didn't taste like punishment. I brought my laptop, a notebook, and a coffee mug that said do no harm but take no nonsense. Someone had given it to me as a joke 3 years ago. Now it felt like a mission statement. I set it on the desk and started building something that felt like mine. Harper Dunn called me on a Friday night. She was one of the senior analysts at Redok. Smart, efficient, criminally underpaid. Her voice sounded tired. Jenna, what happened? They won't tell us anything. I explained it carefully. Budget cuts. Immediate termination. Security escort. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. They're doing it again. HR called me in for a meeting next week. They told me to clear space on my calendar. I felt anger rise in my throat. Not for me. For her. Harper, are you okay? I don't know. I don't think so. I took a breath. Then I made a choice. If you need an option, I'm building something. It's small right now, but it's real. And you'd be valued. She didn't answer right away, but I heard her breathing change. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. Over the next 2 weeks, 6 people reached out. Not because I recruited them, because they were drowning. Harper, Liam Russo from software development, 3 analysts I had mentored, 1 project manager who had been at Redok for 9 years. Every single one of them had been told the same thing. Budget cuts. But the executive parking lot still had new cars. The CEO still posted vacation photos from Italy. And Miles Thornton still had a job he wasn't qualified for. I didn't make big promises. I didn't sell them a dream. I just said the truth. If you want to do good work without being crushed, there's space here. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can promise you'll be respected. That was enough. One by one, they joined me. Not out of revenge. Out of survival. We signed the lease on a real office in October. It was small. 4 desks. A conference table someone found on Craigslist. A whiteboard that didn't erase cleanly. But it was ours. The first morning, Harper brought donuts. Liam brought a coffee maker. Someone hung a plant in the window. We didn't have a mission statement yet. We didn't have branded mugs or motivational posters. We just had each other. And for the first time in years, I felt something I had almost forgotten. Hope. Not the fragile kind that disappears when someone raises their voice. The solid kind. The kind that comes from knowing you're not alone. We worked late that first week. Not because anyone forced us. Because we wanted to. Because the work felt like it mattered. And at the end of the week, everyone went home smiling. Our first major project was for a healthcare startup. They needed a client management system built from scratch. I assigned tasks based on actual skills, not politics. Liam handled the software infrastructure. Harper designed the workflow. I managed the client relationship and strategy. We finished 2 weeks early. The client sent an email I printed and hung on the wall. This is the best work we've received in 5 years. How did your old company not see what you were capable of? I read that line 3 times. Then I smiled. Because they did see. They just didn't care. That was their loss. And slowly, it was becoming our gain. Word spread. Referrals came in. Our calendar filled up. We weren't just surviving. We were building something real. Something good. Something that treated people like they mattered. The email from Bridget arrived on a Wednesday morning. Subject line, urgent question. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Jenna, I need to ask you something directly. Have you been recruiting former employees? We've lost several people recently, and your name has come up in conversations. If you're actively poaching staff, we may need to take legal action. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. Bridget, I don't recruit anyone. I only respond to people who reach out to me first. If your employees are leaving, perhaps you should ask them why. I didn't add what I was thinking. That people don't leave good jobs. They leave bad management. That loyalty isn't given. It's earned. That you can't call it poaching when people are jumping off a sinking ship. I hit send and closed my laptop. Then I went back to work. By November, we had 7 full-time team members. Harper joined officially. Then Liam. Then 3 others who couldn't take Redoux's chaos anymore. We didn't have fancy titles. We didn't have a hierarchy. We just had roles. Everyone knew what they were good at. Everyone contributed. There were no pointless meetings. No passive-aggressive emails. No executives who took credit for other people's work. Just honest labor. And it felt revolutionary. One night, we stayed late to finish a proposal. Someone ordered pizza. We ate in the conference room and talked about our old jobs. Not with bitterness. With relief. I forgot what it felt like to be trusted, Liam said quietly. Everyone nodded. That's when I knew we had built something that mattered. Not just a business. A refuge. I heard through a former coworker that Redoux was struggling. Client complaints were piling up. Deadlines were being missed. Miles didn't know how to manage the operations team. He kept scheduling meetings to discuss productivity. But productivity wasn't the problem. Leadership was. People weren't lazy. They were exhausted. And now the people who actually knew how to do the work were gone. Redoux's stock price started to dip. Investors were asking questions. Cameron Holt called an emergency all-hands meeting. According to Harper's friend who still worked there, he blamed remote work culture. He blamed market conditions. He blamed everything except himself. Fear was spreading through the company like smoke. And my name kept coming up in whispers. Not as a villain. As an escape route. The email came from someone I didn't know. Wes Calder. Subject line, opportunity. I almost deleted it. But something made me open it. Ms. Rowland, I've been hearing impressive things about your new venture. I'm an investor, and I'd like to discuss a potential partnership. Would you be available for a call this week? I looked up his name. Wes Calder. Venture capitalist. Portfolio included 3 companies I recognized. One of them was Redoux. My first instinct was suspicion. Was this a trap? A way for Cameron to shut us down? But I called him anyway. His voice was calm. Professional. I'm not here to cause problems, he said. I'm here because I invest in competence. And from what I've seen, you're building something worth supporting. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. Wes flew in the following week. He didn't wear a suit. Just jeans and a button-down shirt. He sat in our cramped conference room, looked around, and smiled. This reminds me of every good company I've ever funded. Small. Focused. Real. He asked to see our financials. Our client list. Our growth projections. I showed him everything. No embellishments. No exaggerations. Just honest numbers. He nodded slowly. Then he made an offer. I'd like to invest. Not to control you. To support you. You've already proven you can build something solid. I just want to help you scale. The amount he offered made my hands shake. It was enough to hire 10 more people. To lease a bigger office. To turn this refuge into something permanent. I looked at Harper. At Liam. At the team we had built. Then I looked back at Wes. We'll need to discuss it. But thank you. We met that night after Wes left. 7 of us crammed into the conference room. I put the offer on the table. Literally. Printed on paper. This is real, I said. He wants to invest. If we say yes, we're not just a small consulting group anymore. We become a real startup. That means structure. Legal protections. Growth. But it also means responsibility. Harper spoke first. Do we trust him? I think so. But we don't have to decide tonight. Liam leaned back in his chair. What do we want? Really? Silence. Then someone said it. I just want to keep doing good work without being afraid. Everyone nodded. That was it. That was the mission. We voted. Unanimous. 2 weeks later, we signed the paperwork. We had a name. Bright Path Solutions. We had funding. We had a future. And we had something Redok never gave us. Dignity. The legal letter arrived in December. Redok's lawyers claimed we had violated non-compete agreements, that we had stolen proprietary information, that we had engaged in unfair business practices. I read it carefully. Then I called our lawyer. She reviewed everything. Every contract. Every email. Every client agreement. Then she laughed. They don't have a case. You didn't steal anything. You didn't break any agreements. You just built something better. She drafted a response. Calm. Professional. Airtight. We sent it back with documentation proving every claim was false. Redok went quiet after that. Not because they forgave us. Because they knew they couldn't win. And more importantly, they knew why people were leaving. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about competition. It was about leadership. And theirs was broken. Our client list grew faster than I expected. Former Redok clients started reaching out. Not because we contacted them. Because they were unhappy. One CEO called me directly. Jenna, I've worked with Redok for 4 years. But ever since you left, everything has fallen apart. Can you help us? I wanted to say no out of spite. But spite doesn't build companies. Quality does. So I said yes. We took on the project. Delivered it early. Exceeded expectations. They referred us to 3 other companies. Those companies referred us to more. Within 2 months, we had more work than Redok had given me in 2 years. And every client said the same thing. You actually listen. That was the difference. We didn't just solve problems. We cared about solving them correctly. That kind of work speaks for itself. And slowly, it was drowning out every lie Redok had told about us. The call came in January. Cameron Holt himself. I saw his name on my phone and almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Jenna, I think we should talk. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Tired. I stayed quiet. I'd like to meet. Just the 2 of us. Somewhere neutral. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I thought about saying no. About hanging up. About letting him drown in the mess he created. But I was curious. So I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown. He arrived 10 minutes late. Sat down across from me without ordering anything. He looked older. The confidence he used to wear like armor was gone. I want to make this right, he said. I didn't blink. Make what right? Everything. I waited. He didn't know where to start. And that told me everything I needed to know. Cameron slid a folder across the table. Inside was a buyout offer. He wanted to acquire Bright Path Solutions. Absorb us back into Redok. He called it a merger. I called it surrender. This is generous, he said. You'd come back as VP. Full benefits. Stock options. I read the numbers. They were generous. But they were also meaningless. Cameron, why did you fire me? He blinked. Budget cuts. I explained that. No. You replaced me with your nephew. That's not a budget cut. That's favoritism. He looked down. Miles didn't work out. I know. How? Because good employees don't leave good companies. They leave bad leadership. His jaw tightened. I closed the folder. I'm not interested in your offer. But I appreciate you coming. I stood up. He grabbed my arm. Not hard. Just desperate. Please. We're losing everything. I looked at his hand. Then at his face. You already lost it. You just didn't notice until it was too late. I walked out. 3 weeks later, the news broke. Redok Analytics was restructuring. That was the polite word. The real word was collapsing. 5 executives resigned. Bridget Calloway included. Miles Thornton quietly left the company. No announcement. No farewell email. Just gone. Cameron remained CEO, but only because the board hadn't found a replacement yet. Investors were pulling funding. Clients were terminating contracts. The company that once employed 200 people was down to 70. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything on LinkedIn. I didn't send a single message. I just kept working. Because revenge isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's just building something better while the old system falls apart on its own. Redok didn't fail because of me. It failed because it treated people like expenses instead of assets. I just gave those assets a better option. Our new office opened in March. Bright. Spacious. Windows that actually opened. We had 23 employees now. A real HR person who actually cared. Health insurance. Paid time off that people were encouraged to use. No one worked 60-hour weeks unless they wanted to. No one was told their burnout survey didn't matter. We built the kind of workplace we always needed. And it worked. Not because we were perfect, but because we were honest. People trusted us. Clients trusted us. And slowly, we were becoming the company Ridoc pretended to be. One afternoon, Harper walked into my office. "You know what's weird?" she said. "What?" "I don't dread Mondays anymore." I smiled. That was the goal. Not revenge. Not domination. Just a place where good people could do good work without being crushed. We had built that. And it was enough. A text message arrived late one night. Unknown number. "This is Liam's friend from Ridoc. I just wanted to say thank you. You didn't just build a company. You built the place we all dreamed of working." I read it 3 times. Then I looked around my office. At the whiteboard covered in project timelines. At the coffee mug someone had given me that said "Lead with kindness." At the photo on my desk of our whole team laughing during a lunch break. I thought about the day I was fired. The walk of shame. The security guards. The humiliation. And I realized something. That day didn't destroy me. It freed me. It showed me that I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their title. I just needed my skills, my integrity, and people who believed in the same things I did. I didn't destroy Ridoc. I just stopped holding it up. And when I let go, it collapsed under the weight of its own broken leadership. That wasn't revenge. That was gravity.